today. Today marks the end of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial, an important day. The two sides will make their final arguments over the president's martial law declaration and the subsequent course of action and also orders. So the court will take about 2 weeks, as seen with the two previous impeachment cases, and a ruling is expected around mid-March. So for about 2 weeks, the country will be in a state of limbo, with uncertainties looming over what lies for the political future of South Korea. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, the 25th of February, here on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well. We're going to begin our broadcast together on this Tuesday morning already? Yes. All right. So today, an important day, marks the end of President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court and the beginning of a period of uncertainties. So what does this mean? The 11th and final hearing will be held at the Constitutional Court later today, with final arguments to be made. And there are 4 major points that the president's side and the National Assembly representatives will be arguing. So first and foremost is the process of the martial law declaration on December 3rd, and whether this followed the criteria for declaring extraordinary martial law as stipulated in the Constitution. Yoon's side has been arguing that the opposition's impeachment motions against government officials and budget cuts, along with election fraud allegations, made martial law necessary. The president's side further argues that the martial law declaration was only to warn the opposition and to plead his case to the public. The National Assembly claims that the decrees, or 포고령, were against the Constitution, as the decree number 1 banned political activities, including National Assembly activities. So the most contentious issue in the previous 10 hearings was whether the president tried to forcibly remove lawmakers from the National Assembly in order for the arrest of major politicians. So if any of these accusations, if they are found to be true, it would go against Yoon's argument that the martial law declaration was just a warning. So these are some of the main issues the justices will be parsing through for the next 2 or so weeks, and we'll find out the fate of President Yoon Suk-yeol around mid-March. And you know, on our program, we're going to be following the story very closely. All right, now it is time for your text topic. So let's go back. I love these types of questions. We go back in time to your preteen or teenage years. So where were the kind of the hot and hip places in your town back in the day? What did you do with your friends when you basically hung out with them? 자, 나는 청소년 때 뭐 하고 놀았지? 생각해 보시고요. 그리고 우리 동네 당시 최고 hot place. What was it? Where was it? The very, very hot place where you and your friends, where did you hang out? What did you do? So that's what we're talking about. I want to hear all about the really, really fun examples, whether it was, what is it called? DDR? Like, going to like an arcade and dancing away. And by the way, I tried that once and I'm so bad at it. So, or other activities that you did. I know these days, what do kids do? You know what they do. They go to those photo booths. Like every hot place in Korea, in Busan, there's always like multiple photo booths everywhere. 인생, whatever the brand name is. Oh, there's so many. So what did you do? That's what we're looking for. You can send in your messages to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. So go to the platform YouTube. So type in BEFM, 부산영어방송, and you can check out our channel, subscribe, log in, and chat with our other waivers. On your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can also reach out to me for free on Kakao Talk. We have our own Kakao Talk channel. Type in BEFM after you go to the 친구 찾기, add a friend. And you can send in your messages, photos as well. The ways you can listen to us if you're in Busan, 90.5 or 103.3 FM on the radio dial. By the way, that's how I found out about BFM2. Like, I was literally in my car, kind of like, and I saw a banner. I forgot what bridge it was. There was a pedestrian bridge, and there was a banner that said 90.5. And I was like, oh, there's an English radio station. And then I tuned it to 90.5, and I was like, oh, nice. Anyhow, so also YouTube live streaming right now, and you can watch again later at your leisure. We have our own BFM app, which you can download for free. We're also available on the Patbang app, where we have our wa글와글 segment. This is Tuesday, so you know what that means. Andrew's coming in for Sports Insider, and then in hour number 2, we have Bonnie with The Health. And for a special interview. You have heard, I'm sure, that South Korea, its R&D, research and development budget, saw some major cuts last year. However, the government reversed course for the year 2025, increasing funding. And the thing is this. Scientific research, it's so important not just for Korea, but in the U.S. as well. And there's been a lot of funding cuts in the U.S. as well. We're going to talk about how defunding science might really hurt not just the U.S., but, all of us. So that's coming up in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:07. These are today's headlines. Yoon's final impeachment hearing to take place today. President Yoon Suk-yeol's defense team and the National Assembly representatives are making last-minute preparations for the final hearing of Yoon's impeachment trial, with final arguments likely to focus on whether the martial law declaration was in accordance with the Constitution. Parliamentary subcommittee passes special counsel probe into Yoon. A parliamentary judiciary subcommittee yesterday passed an opposition-led bill mandating a special counsel probe into the president and political power broker Yoon's election scandal from 2022. South Korea to set greenhouse gas emission goal for 2035 with UN. The government said it also plans to devise a comprehensive plan for 2026 to 2030 to respond to global warming and a long-term plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. Government launches electronic arrival card system for incoming foreigners. Foreigners entering South Korea can now fill out their arrival card online up to 3 days in advance, the Justice Ministry said yesterday. Trump and Macron meet and discuss Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron held a joint conference after their meeting over the war in Ukraine, showing their differing views on the role of Europe. And these are today's headlines. It's time for Busan Updates. We have Sue in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so before we jump into our updates, let's talk about where you used to hang out. So what was like the hot, trendy place?
So if I were to go further, I used to hang out in Nampo-dong.
Oh.
And it was packed with people and street food. I think it's pretty much the same these days. There's one more thing. 만화방, comic book store.
Ah.
Yes.
So did you spend hours there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Eating ramen and snacks and reading some, comic books.
I've never been to one. I always see them on TV.
Okay.
And I want to visit. It's just the comic books, they were kind of banned in my life. My mother was so strict. She's like, no comic books. So
right, I heard. Yeah.
So I feel like if I go into a manapang, I feel kind of I'm doing something evil or bad, even as an adult, so I've never gone. But maybe I will. It sounds so fantastic. Well, we're going to jump into our updates. So the Busan construction headquarters will begin demolition work on the 벡스코요금소 toll gate that's starting March 4th, following changes to the smart toll collection system on 광안대교 bridge, right?
Right. Traffic control will take place from March 4th to April 19th, avoiding peak commuting hours by operating from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. the following day. During this period, for about 8 days, when road surface restoration is carried out in the upper tollgate section, work hours will be extended, running from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day. And demolition work will include removing the canopy, toll booths, and electronic displays.
Yes. So will there be any lane closures we want to know?
Yes. For both upper toll gates, 용호동 to 송정 direction, and the lower toll gates, 용호동 to 해운대 direction, one lane will be used. And to minimize inconvenience, demolition work will pause during weekdays daytime hours and on weekends when traffic volume is high.
I see. Well, definitely that is something that needs to be done. So if you see them tearing it down, be patient. Next up, Busan aims for South Korea's first national urban park designation, right?
Right. The city plans to push for final approval by next year, focusing on amending related laws and gathering public support. And the Nakdonggang River estuary, including 을숙도 in Sahagu District and Mekdo Ecological Park in Gangseogu District, is planned for the park. And the estuary is South Korea's largest migratory bird habitat and ranks first in bird species diversity among the country's 200 migratory bird sites. And the city aims to make this area as a new landmark, boosting Busan's reputation as a green, eco-friendly international city.
Yes. And so we need to know about the progress thus far. So what's going on there?
So in September last year, Busan completed urban management planning for the site. The National Urban Park Citizens Promotion Headquarters was launched, involving over 90 community leaders.
And so are there any challenges to this? Because sometimes there are, right?
Right now, no park in Korea has received a National Urban Park title because the rules are very strict. One key rule is that the local government must own every part of the park's land, and the park must be larger than 3 million square meters. So for Busan's proposed park, it includes 3.21 million square meters of national land and 2.37 million square meters of land owned by the city and 70,000 square meters of district-owned land. And since the city doesn't own all this land outright, they are asking for the rules to be relaxed. And Busan has already reached out to the National Assembly and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport to make these changes.
Yes.
And if they succeed, Busan hopes to get the park officially designated as the National Urban Park by 2026.
Well, so here's hoping, fingers crossed, that all goes smoothly. All right, next, let's talk about the construction of the Hyundai Premium Outlet. That is the tentative name. That's led by Hyundai Department Store. It is set to begin in the Ecodelta That's in Gangseogu District, right here in Busan, right?
Gangseogu District announced that it had recently approved the construction permit for the Hyundai Premium Outlet on the retail sales facility site in Ecodelta City, Daejeodong. And the Hyundai Premium Outlet will be built on an 86,015 square meter site with 1 underground floor and 4 above ground floors. And it will be the largest Hyundai outlet in the country. And construction is expected to begin around September, with operations planned for 2027. And with the establishment of the Hyundai Premium Outlet, the city will have all 3 major domestic outlets by Lotte, Shinsegae, and Hyundai. And Hyundai Department Store announced plans to invest approximately 7 billion won, 7천억 정도요, and introduce a future-oriented retail platform based on the premium outlet to target the local market.
I see. So I'm sure many people are looking forward to that. In the meantime, the city of Busan announced the launch of the Lifetime Together Youth Everyone Housing Cost Support Program. So, this is a mouthful. So what is it in Korean?
So in Korean, 평생 함께 청년 모두가 사업.
Okay.
So this program will provide rental income support for single and unmarried young people with newlyweds within 7 years of marriage living in public rental housing.
Oh, so that's pretty generous. Newlyweds up to 7 years.
Yes.
What's the eligibility, the details on this?
So for single unmarried young adults, their household income cannot exceed 60% of the previous year's average monthly income for urban workers by household size.
Okay.
And for newlywed couples within 7 years of marriage, their household income cannot exceed 80% of the previous year's average monthly income. And eligibility can be verified through the household's health insurance premium notices. And the application period is from March 10th to 21st. And applications can be made by searching for Busan Metropolitan City Lifetime Together Use Everyone Housing Cost Support on government website. And the city will start a pilot program this year, selecting 1,000 households. And in the future, the selection criteria and the number of supported households will be expanded with plans to support a total of 10,000 households by 2030.
So once again, if you are eligible, you might want to apply for this. All right. Now let's talk about the Busan Modern and Contemporary History Museum, which is hosting the March 1st Independent Movement Day for citizen participation.
Yes. So 3일절 is this Saturday. And the event is called Answer 1919 응답하라 1919. So it's going to be held to commemorate the 106th anniversary and teach the history of the independence movement.
Yes.
So for families with elementary school age children, there is the exhibition guide program, which starts with the story of the first independence movement in Busan at Ilshin Girls School. And there is also a fun draw your own 태극기 activity. So participants will learn about the design and significance of the South Korean flag.
Sure.
And the flags created by participants will be used in making a giant 태극기 for the 80th anniversary of Korea's liberation. And this flag will be displayed on the museum's outer wall for the whole month of August in celebration of Liberation Day, 광복절.
And how can people participate? Very important.
The fee is free and people can apply for the exhibition guide program through the city's reservation system until February 26th. And the draw your own 태극기 activity will be available on a first come, first served basis for the first 100 participants. And people can sign up on site at the museum as well.
Sounds good. Thanks for all the updates for today, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. And now back to you. We have your traffic and weather. It is now time for your traffic report at 7:18 on this Tuesday morning. There's been an accident on Byeongno going out of the city right past the Wondong interchange, so it's causing backup. Please be aware. Also some congestion on Mandokdaero from Minam intersection to Mandok intersection. There's also some traffic buildup on Jungangdaero from Songgong Three-Way intersection to Seomyeon intersection. Likewise, quite slow on Chungjangdaero from Jungangdong intersection to Chungjang overpass. Currently, it is -1 degree Celsius here in Busan. It's expected to go up to 9 degrees under sunny skies. There is a dry weather special alert in Busan. Across the nation, we're getting a break in that cold wave today, with a daytime high, at least across certain parts of the country, going up to anywhere between 6 to 11 degrees Celsius. Most areas are under a dry weather special alert, so once again, please be aware of this and let's be careful of fires. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time to check in with Haley. She's here for News Digest. Good morning.
Good morning.
Don't you love how like our producer has her headset on and then she speaks so loud?
She'll yell at us. Yeah.
She doesn't realize she's
and we
yelling.
didn't do anything wrong.
And we're
She's
just
just conversing but yelling. You're so loud.
You are so loud. Yes. Before I ask Haley about her like go-to place, I want to read again's message. It just popped up. It said, 수업 시간 몰래 만화책 보기 했어요. Because there's a lot of people who say like they went to these 만화방s apparently. So my question is this, again님, if you're still listening, 어떻게 그거를 like how did you
hide it.
Hide it. Like
you obviously
was it
weren't
under a
like
textbook?
this.
Probably.
Well, when I went to a local middle school to
Yes.
take one of the English standardized English exams,
yes.
there was a giant hole in the middle of my desk that I was
for real?
assigned to. And I was like, there's a hole in my desk. And he's like, just cover it. The proctor was like, just, work around it. And I was like, sir. So I asked my friends later on and she's like, that is a generation of students digging through with a box cutter so they can
Seriously.
몰폰. They can they can be on their phone in secret. I'm like, this is like, it's their legacy. So,
But it also shows you they're addicted to
I
their
know,
phones.
seriously.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
like, pay attention during class.
All right.
Yeah.
So what about for you? Back in the day, like what was like the hot place?
Ooh, okay. So from, age whatever to about third grade, I was in Korea. So we did, I went to my friends' homes, and this was like in the beginning days of the internet and the computer. So we were like on the, whatever, the portal site junior websites. And then we did a lot of Princess Maker. I think that was the game. You try to raise a girl into a princess. Yeah, I think mine wound up being a knight. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. And then in the States, I grew up in a very small town. Like antiquing was the top.
Antiquing?
If you go to the trip.
You got to explain. What is antiquing?
골동품 쇼핑.
네. Hunting.
저는 그런 동네에서
찾기.
살았습니다. Right. So we didn't have much to do in the ways of entertainment. So we had like one movie theater. I went to Joann Fabrics a lot because that was the nearest store. So it's a fabric
Memories.
store. Literally 천 파는 가게.
근데 너무 재밌어요.
It's fun.
Yeah,
because they
you
have
could,
all
like,
the fabrics.
Pick out your fabric.
By the way, I don't know how to sew, but I just went. And they have the buttons. I did learn how
lots
to
of
make
craft
jewelry.
making, though.
Yeah.
I used to hang out at the mall. That was like
Because you were a city girl.
Yeah, I was a city girl. Like near
to,
LA, right?
I had to drive out of town to go to the mall.
seriously?
Yeah, like I'm telling you, we had antiquing was
I used to tell my mom that I'm going to the library in junior high, middle school. 중학교 때 엄마한테는 도서관 가요. And she'd be like, oh, go, 가. Like, go study. And then I did go. I would go for 3 hours. And then, of
That's
course,
pretty good.
I need a break, right? The
Yeah.
mall's like real close. So we went to the mall and hung out. And like literally, your hair is long. You're like twirling your hair.
Right.
Like, checking out the cute boys. Yeah, that's what we did.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Let's get into some
She
news.
said, check out, our producer.
Yes?
Yeah. She was curious, like, what do you do at the mall?
Check
she checked
out the
cute boys.
boys. Okay, let's go to News Digest. Let's begin with the quality of life here in South Korea. How is it?
All right. So not so good news. All right, brace ourselves. Quality of life in South Korea, it went down for the first time in 4 years. So
Yes.
that takes us to 33rd place out of all 38 OECD countries, right? Not good. So this is according to Statistics Korea's Quality of Life report from 2024, which was done upon a survey from 2023.
Sure.
So out of 10 points, 10 out of 10 being the top, our quality of life came to 6.4, which was down by 0.1 points. So that's like a D, right? That
I was
is a
going to say,
solid
that's
D.
a scale of 10, right?
Right, the scale of 10, so
Okay.
6.4. So it's still like 64%.
So what could account for this decline in life satisfaction?
Relationships, they seem to have taken a hit last year. So there was a 1-point decline in people's satisfaction with their family relationships.
no.
So only 63.5% were happy with their family. Also, are you in
I know,
the
it's like,
60?
are we part of the 60?
Yeah, it's like,
I don't know.
you say it first.
Yeah.
Personal trust also went down by nearly 2 points, actually, to 52.7%, as well as trust in institutions. So barely a little over half the people in the country, 51%, trust the institutions. There was also a slight decrease in leisure time, people being able to enjoy their lives for 4.1 hours out of the day.
Okay.
But we did see, good news, improvements in hiring, especially employment for college graduates and participation in social groups. There's also a relationship between one's income and satisfaction that is usually true. The lower your income was, the lower your life satisfaction was. Also,
Yeah, go on. Yes.
also the relatively happiest people, or at least satisfied, there was an age pattern as well
Yes.
in your 40s. So I know a
Oh.
lot of our listeners are in our 40s,
Yes,
including
yes.
some people in this studio. Are you happy? Yes, no, yay, nay. Okay, I'm getting some very passive, unenthusiastic nods.
No. Very happy.
Yeah, so seems to be a plateau. So in your
Yes.
20s, goes up a little bit in the 30s, it plateaus in the 40s and starts to decline a bit, right?
No. And a very serious issue. Suicide, still a problem.
Right, so once again, a trigger warning for suicide. Well, the rate actually went up last year. So we look at suicide as a group of, for every 100,000 people, 27.3 suicides for every 100,000 people. This is the highest in 9 years that we have seen. And men committed more suicide at 38.3 to women 16.5. Once again, very much at the top of all the suicide rates out of all OECD nations.
Of all the lists, this is the one we really need to come down on.
We really, I mean, it's not even it's never a competition, but it's not even
Right.
in relevance to the other countries. We just need to
Yes.
bring our own numbers down.
Indeed. All right, let's move on. It's really important to instill financial sense and good habits into children, including teaching them how to save. But apparently some parents are going like way above and beyond.
Maybe even using their children's bank accounts for other means of finances. So minors, 미성년자, who have bank accounts collectively, they have about 8 trillion won. This is according to figures from the 5 major commercial banks in South Korea, released by Democratic Party lawmaker Jin Seon-mi.
Yes.
So this figure of 8 trillion won collectively is about a 20% increase from just a year ago. So over 4.6 million accounts that were held by minors. It's kind of what we would imagine, parents putting in all the 세뱃돈 and the pocket money they receive from relatives into the banking account.
Yes.
Because 4.6 million of them had 1,000만 원, 10 million won or less. But then there are also very wealthy children.
Like?
Who are you people? 1,727 of them had between 100 and 500 million won. 1억 원 to 5억 won. Who are you?
부러워요.
And
I'm saying at that age,
right.
how do you have
And
that
then,
much in your account?
but wait.
145
of them having over 500 million won. And I'm like, once again, you're not earning this money because that would be in violation of child labor laws, I'm
Yes.
assuming. So they own maybe property.
Right.
So this figure of accounts with high deposits is on the rise. So the lawmaker raised suspicions that these bank accounts under the minors' names may be used for illegal or inheritance that circumvents tax laws. Which would be illegal.
Because I was thinking,
No 15-year-old is receiving 1억 won in 세뱃돈.
I was just thinking,
right?
no matter how many 절,
No way.
there's no way. All right. Next, there are young adults who are making money. Is there a theme going on?
That's a theme.
But it's through illegal means.
Drug smuggling continues to be a problem.
Right.
And this is a local story. 2 people in their 20s, they were caught by Busan Customs attempting to and having already smuggled over 7 kilograms of synthetic and liquid marijuana. So this case started unraveling when 700 grams of highly concentrated liquid marijuana was found in Incheon at the Incheon International Airport Customs. That happened in May of last year. Turns out this was a bit of a complicated operation. A 26-year-old woman would receive drugs via international mail, divide it up. So she had her own factory going on at home into smaller portions to be sold, pass it off to her accomplice, another 26-year-old male. So he was the distributor. And this is the theme we see often with drug deals, like 던지기, you toss. So you kind of toss the drugs into a very kind of inconspicuous place like garbage and then would tell the buyer where it is
and then they would pick it up. So this is all done like without face-to-face contact.
Sure.
And of course, they got paid in cryptocurrency. So Busan customs officers confiscated over 7 kilos of such drugs from an apartment in Donggu district.
Okay.
And that, by the way, is enough for 118,000 people to
Wow.
get high. So this all happened over Telegram. So once again, cryptocurrency and social media
Sure.
making these more discreet. So officials said that young people are falling into these traps of being drug mules and, distributors because they do offer higher pay. However, is that worth your life and going to jail and being, having that history? And authorities said that they will trace down these operations and transactions to the very end and ask people with knowledge or suspicions to call 125.
Oh, there's a special number.
There's a special number.
Now we know.
Yes.
And can we define what drug mule is?
Oh, right. So mule is an animal. It's 노새, so it's like
Right.
a hybrid between a donkey and something else. But mules are known to carry very heavy loads.
Yes.
So we, call people who carry drugs or smuggle things mules. And
Yes.
I use it like I obviously don't carry drugs, but because my bags are so heavy, I say like, oh, I feel like a mule. Yeah. And that
because
doesn't
you're-
have to be drugs, but you can
Yeah.
I carry heavy stuff.
Tim.
Tim.
Yes. Now we know. Thank you. All right. So let's move on and talk about how some schools, they have no incoming first graders. We've talked about this. And others are forced to shut down due to a lack of students. And now we're going to talk about how this population decline affects those who are living in those areas. So we're not just talking about, the non-existent
numbers, right?
children.
We're going to talk about the life of these small town issues because,
Yes.
okay, so once again, going back to my small town antiquing town days, there was a joke that because we had nothing to do,
Yes.
young people got into drugs. And by the way, we had a very high meth cooking rate in the state and like high teenage
people
pregnancy rate. So the joke / I guess black comedy was
Yes.
when you have nothing to do, people will find other things. So not to that extent in South Korea, but it is a vicious cycle where a lack of
Yes.
students overall, that leads to a shortage of or a lack of resources. And then that leads to more families and students moving out of that town because they can't really do anything. So over half the teens, so right now there are 89 low population areas in the country. Over half the teens who live there say that they hope to live in a different area at one point. And about a third of them, they actually have plans to move.
Yes.
And this is according to a report by the National Youth Policy Institute, which surveyed 1,119 teens and young adults in such low population areas. The report also analyzed that young adults, so they're adults, but between ages of 19 and 24, highly likely to move to a different area in the near future.
And why is this?
Well, because teenagers said that they felt most negatively about their living environment, a lack of cultural facilities, cultural resources. There's just nothing to do, followed by lack of educational resources. So
Okay.
even if they wanted to go to a cram school or private institution, there isn't. Also lack of hands-on experience and youth and teen spaces.
Yes.
And by the way, this isn't just about you not having stuff to do. It is all about you not having resources to fill your transcript, to go to college,
That's true.
extracurricular activities. They also pointed to a lack of information on high school and college admissions and career information. But they did have positive perceptions on having familiarity with their surroundings,
Okay.
along with clean air. They have nature. They have
Yes.
access to nature, as well as being familiar with your neighbors. Once also, if you will allow me another segue, my family went to a very small town over the weekend.
Yes.
And we just ran into a group of kids and they just were like, oh, 안녕하세요. And it's like, I love that they just assume that we would be like a friend of a family or someone. So it's just very safe environment where
They're very friendly.
kids feel safe to say hello to random adults. Does not happen in large cities.
No.
Right. So that's at least a positive part.
Yes.
But researchers said that there is a need to listen to these voices of small town kids and come up with the necessary infrastructure.
Yes. And so that is that story about how this is really affecting all communities. And now let's talk about this. We're getting a break in the cold, right? And it's finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, time to start looking forward to spring. So ready.
Although the
So
flowers will be a little bit later than usual. This is
okay.
according to the Korea Forest Service releasing their projections for spring flowering trees because this winter has been cold.
Yes.
Cold. Average temperature of negative 1.8 degrees Celsius. Usual average is about 0.7 above zero. What are you doing, 피디님? She is like trying to crawl into the screen. I'm so sorry. I got so distracted. Anyways,
She was
because
doing the
it's so
opposite
cold,
of the ring. Like, it wasn't coming out as she was trying to go into what?
I try to ignore her so much, just
It's so
in
hard,
general,
though.
in
Yes.
my career, but it's hard.
Yes.
Anyways, flowers are going to be blooming later. Okay, it is a tiny fonted map that we have on the screen, but
is that why?
I think that's why. Starting mid-March in the southernmost areas from Jeju, you will see blossoms expanding nationwide by April. Looking at Busan and Gyeongnam, expect ginger trees. Did not know that was a thing, but they are
Ginger
the earliest
trees.
trees to bloom flowers. Late March, azalea, so 진달래, 털쭉, that family, late March to early April. And 벚꽃, cherry blossoms, early April.
I see. Ooh, nice. So hopefully they'll be in bloom for my birthday in April. Stop laughing, Haley. I know it's so hard, but all right, we're going to call it a wrap for all the hard news. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you.
See you in a bit.
Yes, yes. All right, let's get to your text topic for today. We're talking about going back to when you were young. Teenagers, tweens, whatever you want to call them. Where was like the hot place? Where did you hang out? So aside from all the manabangs that I've been seeing, apparently a lot of you were into comic books, right? Let's see. Leslie. In the 90s, they had recording booths in the mall. 저도 mall 얘기했잖아요. 그러니까 mall is kind of like a 백화점, but a little bit different. It wasn't like all the fancy, like really, really name brand kind of place. They had like, inexpensive brands as well. And so they had recording booths in the mall that you could go with your friends and sing and come out with your own demo tape. Ooh. So there were midnight showings of Rocky Horror Picture Show. And she said they would go in costume. Ooh. So very nice indeed. So thank you for sharing what you did back in the day. And I'm trying to read. Oh, there's some long Korean ones. Which one? Okay, I'll read the one from Michael. 전 고딩 때 정말 열심히 공부하려고 노력했습니다. 학교 이후 대부분의 시간을 독서실에서 보냈는데 유일한 일탈이라면 당시 달리기를 주제로 한 만화를 엄청 인기였어요. 친구들과 독서실에서 그걸 함께 읽다가 야밤에 모교인 some 초등학교. So basically, he was like a really, really diligent student. And so the one little thing that he did away from his studies was, I guess, read one particular comic book. And then we also have Taejin who says, 청소년 때 학교에서 놀았고 가끔 콜라텍이라는 거 좀 노는 친구가 가게 빌리면 학교 와서 티켓 팔로 거기 가면 여친도 만들려고 갔는데 재밌었어요. Oh, Taejin, you know how to 재밌게 놀았네요. So he went to something called a Colatech. So it's kind of like a non-alcoholic kind of cafe kind of place where, is it a club?
Teenage club.
It's a teenage club, right? So no alcohol. So you can dance and you can, So anyhow, that's what we're talking about. Well, we got to get to Cat's Pick, so I'll be back in just a moment. It's time for Cat's Pick. This is an amazing story. I love plain stories and I love medical miracles. So this is one where a mom named Megan, she delivered her son, but it was an amazing delivery because this was like a first of sorts. Let's just listen to the clip from GMA first.
At At a 24-week ultrasound, Megan Wild and her fiancé, Luciano Reinaga, received the news no parents-to-be ever wants to hear. Their baby had a serious heart defect. It's called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, appearing in 1 in 4,000 births, where the left side of the heart is underdeveloped.
Essentially, the entire main pumping chamber of the heart that provides blood to the rest of the body has not formed appropriately.
Yes, this part of the heart is not working very well.
Without correction or surgical treatment, can a child survive?
No.
These babies require multiple surgeries in the first few years of life, but doctors discovered Megan's baby had an added challenge: no communication between the right and left sides of the heart, limiting the baby's chance of surviving long enough to make it to the first surgery.
I actually almost fainted when they told me. It was a lot at once.
The 35-year-old mom-to-be chose to proceed with a new and complex operation at Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital in New York. In a special surgery called an exit procedure, the baby would be partially delivered and still attached with the umbilical cord. With the mom functioning as the baby's heart-lung machine, the doctor would perform open heart surgery, fixing the communication between the two sides of the heart and delivering the baby right after.
I was really scared of what could happen because it's a lot of what ifs and you don't know until the baby's there.
On January 6th, Dr. Saeed performed the first successful procedure of its kind.
You had 2 minutes and you did it in 90 seconds.
Well, we had some adrenaline rush. It was successful and also should open the pathway for other babies who have the similar problems.
Luciano Reinaga III was fully delivered just minutes after his heart surgery. He then had the first in a series of stage surgeries less than 24 hours later.
Luciano.
Today, 6 weeks later, he's doing great, working on feeding in rehab and spending time in his parents' arms.
So did you understand that clip? I mean, amazing. If you are on our YouTube page, you would have seen the diagram of the baby being kind of like half born out of, the mommy, and they were performing the open heart surgery. Just amazing, not just for the mom and the baby, but the doctors who performed this amazing surgery. Did I say amazing enough? That was amazing. Cat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
Guess who I found strolling around?
Hi, everybody.
Oh my God, look at your glove.
Oh, what? Oh, the Canada gloves. Sorry, they're mittens.
They're mittens, yeah.
Definitely not gloves.
Yeah. Your mittens.
Yeah.
So Canadian.
I hung out at the hockey rink in high school.
Well, I was at the mall, twirling my hair.
Definitely.
I wasn't waiting for the cute boys. I was waiting for the cute boys to approach me. So
With the rest of the plastics. Oh,
La La Land.
I'm
Yes.
joking. You know Mean Girls, the movie? Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I was
No
such
problem.
a mean girl. No, I wasn't.
No, I'm trying to think. When you asked that question, you were reading the listeners' responses. It got me thinking. I remember it was kind of like different each year, I think. I think it was like my grade 10 or grade 11 year. We always went on like Friday nights to a pool hall. And it was like, I think it was like $10 and you could play for like all night.
All night?
Or I think it was
Bowling for $10?
Pool. But I think sorry. I think it was 40 for the table for the night.
Okay.
And then it was like 4 or 5 friends would put in the money.
Right.
And then other people would come and stuff like that. They had like a jukebox kind of thing. But like for
jukebox,
like up to date music. You know what I mean? So it was pretty cool. And then like obviously the mall, but I don't know. And then trying to stay out of trouble.
Jubro says, looks like a hockey player. He is.
I don't know why you think that.
Why would you think that?
Yeah.
Are you wearing like matching pants?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I'm just curious.
The cat looking under the table, everybody.
Okay,
oh, no.
sorry.
But we are here for some sports news, and there's only one place to start. Let's get to our clip.
his own face-off against McDavid. And off the drop, McDavid went forward and nearly got a shot on. The car sends it around. Marner waiting. Connor McDavid scores! Connor McDavid for Canada!
Lower the clip. We don't need to hear that much of the clip. Come on.
Yes, I have to take these mittens off. Sorry,
Yes.
fellow Canadians. It is warm. Yeah, they are.
Are you going to keep the...
Yeah, it's staying on.
Okay, everything's staying on?
I did get a haircut though, so maybe I should show everyone. But, so yeah, the inaugural Four Nations face-off concluded with a thrilling championship game that was held on, I guess it was Friday morning here in Korea, and I'm sure anybody in Hyundai probably heard me scream when Connor McDavid scored the overtime winner at the TD Garden.
You.
Yeah,
I did.
3-2 in overtime. The game was really close. You know, it was back and forth. Canada took the lead. Then U.S. came back and scored 2. And then Canada scored again to level it up. And then it was 2-2 at the end of regulation. I love this. Look at Kat. She's just like, all right.
Don't care, but okay, go on.
So then Connor McDavid scored in overtime, assisted by Mitch Marner. So, you know, it was a lot of people kind of said that this tournament was, you know, it's a made-up tournament. You know, they're doing it instead of the All-Star game, kind of maybe pump up the sport a little bit, because I think if you want to look at all of the major sports across, you know, North America, the viewership is down. You know, and, you know, look at the NBA with their All-Star game.
Yeah.
Womp, womp.
It was boring.
You know, so then, you know, the NHL does this, and it was better than anybody ever expected. But the thing is, I think what it really does is it sets up for next year in Italy for the Winter Olympics, because, you know, obviously the NHL players were in Sochi in 2014.
Right.
They did not come to Pyeongchang in 2018. And then, you know, they weren't in China in 2022. So they are going back to the Olympics.
I can't look at you. You're so red. 눈 아파요. So that's why I keep on looking away, literally.
No, I love it.
So red.
The pain.
The pain in my eyes.
It's feeding my heart right now.
Okay, and I don't know why Leslie says, "Oh my God, Andrew's so freaking adorable." And I texted her. I said, "Let's not encourage him," because my eyes hurt. 눈 아파요. Too early.
Did you want to offset it by putting on some mittens?
I cannot.
I challenge you to a duel.
What color is the Canadian passport? Is it red?
Blue.
Blue.
Yeah, the outside
so
cover is blue.
So you copied the U.S.? Okay.
Our original Canadian color is blue.
Okay, so anyhow.
There you go.
There you go. For a story.
Yeah, so, moving on from hockey, just congratulations to
All right,
Canada.
congratulations. All right. I wish you brought some maple cookies, but staying on the ice, another big weekend for the Korean figure skaters.
I brushed my teeth with maple syrup this morning, so I don't know. So the 2025 ISU Four Continents, another four kind of thing event, figure skating championship concluded this past weekend in Seoul. You know, with everything going on in hockey, I forgot that this was actually taking place. With some thrilling performances. Now, in the women's singles, this woman cannot stop. It is fantastic. Kim Chan stole the show by winning gold on home ice. 18-year-old skater set a new career best figures in both the short program and the free skate.
That's right.
Which a lot of people were wondering, you know, how is she going to perform after the Asian Games? I knew, and I think most people knew that it wasn't a one-off.
Right.
You know what I mean? It definitely,
But the doubters.
Yeah. So for the listeners who are wondering what's the Four Continents Figure Skating Championship, it's the world except Europe is the easiest way to explain it. All right. I don't know why they do this. I think the European champions, they have their own. So then the Four Continents is the other one. All right.
Yes.
So she completely dominated the event, finishing 18 points ahead of the silver medalist. I mean, and in figure skating in a massive event, that's huge.
18 is huge.
It's huge. So, you know, congrats to her. And then in the men's side, everyone was looking to see Cha Jun-hwan, is he going to be, you know,
able to
replicate what happened, you know, at Harbin? Unfortunately, no. Not for a lack of trying, that's for sure. So Kazakhstan's Mikhail Shadorov made history by securing the country's first Four Continents title, which is, since 2015, which is pretty amazing.
Yes.
But Chuncheon did take the silver. It was a few points behind, maybe more than a few, but
Yes.
we'll just say it was great. And again, I think, this does set up, the Asian Games were very important. This was important, but a lot of these skaters, they look for the World Championships.
Oh, yeah.
All right, which take place in Boston next month. So we'll see how that goes for both the men and women.
Exactly. And do I have to say this? Andrew wrote, just like hockey. This has to have many people excited for the Olympics next year in Italy. So we're going to talk about soccer, a.k.a. football. I call it soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Did you watch, Spurs did fantastic on the weekend, 4-1.
They did okay. I stopped watching.
Yeah,
it was at an ungodly hour.
For
Yes.
everyone out there, just so you understand how Kat operates,
Yes.
if you're doing great, she'll cheer for you.
No,
If you're
no.
not, she's out.
No, I am not a fair weather fan.
She's very finicky.
Yes.
No, it's okay. All right, so it was a pivotal weekend here in the Premier League, or not here in England, I guess.
Yes.
Liverpool secured a commanding 2-0 victory over Manchester City at the Etihad on Sunday, and Mohamed Salah just continues to write records for him at the club and everything like that. It's the 5th time he scored 30 goals in a season, which I don't think when he arrived in Liverpool 8 years ago, anybody would have expected that to happen. Maybe some, 20-goal seasons, but not 30 or more. All right, so Mohamed Salah opened the scoring to make it 1-0, and Dominic Szoboszlai made it 2-0
Yes.
and extended Liverpool's lead to 11 points at the top of the Premier League table. And this is because Arsenal, I want to say stumbled, fell on their face, I'm not really sure, against West Ham on Saturday night, losing 1-0, which really a lot of people are saying, it's now Liverpool's title to lose. Some pundits out there are saying it's Liverpool's now. As a Liverpool fan, I will not say that, because if I do, it will jinx them, and I don't want that to happen.
Is there a theme with like the red Liverpool and then...
Oh, you mean this jersey on it? No, I'm just joking.
I was like, oh my gosh, seriously?
I did, on the way here, I actually thought, I was like, I could have worn my Liverpool hat as well. Took it off for this point. Hey, I wear a lot of different hats. But no, all right.
Yes.
Moving on to some other soccer news here. We got an update on the upcoming World Cup qualifying matches that will take place back here in Korea.
Oh, the international break.
Exactly. So, a lot of people are wondering, where they're going to be, because it hadn't been announced yet. And usually the KFA announces this well in advance.
Yes.
And a lot of people were wondering which stadiums it'll be at because of some of the conditions that were complaints about at the previous stadiums. So the KFA announced that, Korea will face Oman on March 20th at the Goyang Stadium in Goyang. Then on March 25th, they'll take on Jordan at the Suwon World Cup Stadium, of course, in Suwon. Both matches, of course, because they're here in Korea, will kick off at 8 p.m. Now, for people who maybe haven't been wondering, or have been wondering, I'm sorry, because we haven't had an international break in a little while.
Right.
So South Korea leads Group B with 14 points after 6 matches in the third round of Asian qualification for 2026, the Canada, U.S., Mexico World Cup. Oh, Canada's there again. All right. The decision to host these matches outside of Seoul, like I said, comes consider a fact. I was hoping they were going to come to Busan.
Yes.
Because it's a little warmer down here. Come on, people, use your heads here.
I don't know, but I have
no.
a message for you.
Oh, let's hear it. Come on.
Someone wants to know, 앤드루님 땀 나시는 거 아닙니까?
No, am I sweating? No,
You're dry? You're okay?
I'm all right.
You look so much better like that, but
My hair's
all
a
right,
little-
now that the hat's off.
The gloves are off, people. The gloves are off.
The men's and hat are off.
Yeah. No, I'm not sweating.
Right. So.
But it is warmer in Busan than it is in Seoul.
Yes.
So those games coming up next month. If they're able to secure both victories, they're pretty much in the into the next round, which would be great. Korea has taken part in every World Cup since 1986. Let's not stop now, people.
Oh, people are lying online. 모자 벗으니 미남이네. Why are they lying? They're saying you're handsome without your hat. All right. Well, we're going to call it a wrap for all the news, and we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Yes, we need a break from that. That is Suddenly by Jaywalk as requested by Benny. I'll be back at 8.
부산영어방송.
특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
These are the guidelines for action for people in the event of an apartment building fire. First, if evacuation is possible in the event of a fire in your home, move to a safe place in a low posture by using stairs. And if evacuation is difficult, move to an evacuation space or block the door gap and call 119 for rescue. Second, if a fire breaks out in another home and no flames or smoke enters your home, wait inside the home, call 119, and act according to the announcement. Third, if flames and smoke come into your home in the event of a fire in another home, check to see if evacuation is possible and then evacuate or request rescue. This was brought to you by the Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the National Fire Agency.
살림꾼 김재우의 살림템 추천. 상틀 바람막이로 실내 온기 지켜줄게. 포장은 다회용기로, 플라스틱 거절한다. 우리 식재료로 유통을 줄이면 탄소를 줄일 수 있어. 이 모든 건 기후위기에 대응하는 지구 살림템. 여러분도 함께해요. 공익광고협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is News Highlights. Yoon's final impeachment hearing to take place today. President Yoon Suk-yeol's defense team and the National Assembly representatives are making last-minute preparations for the final hearing of Yoon's impeachment trial, with final arguments likely to focus on whether the martial law declaration was in accordance with the Constitution. The Constitutional Court previously said each side will have 2 hours to present its closing arguments, but there will be no time limit for the final statements from the president and Representative Chung Cheong-nae, who serves as the lead impeachment prosecutor. The court is expected to deliver its ruling on Yoon's impeachment as early as mid-March. Parliamentary subcommittee passes special counsel probe into Yoon. A parliamentary judiciary subcommittee yesterday passed an opposition-led bill mandating a special counsel probe into the president and political power broker Yoon's election scandal from 2022. The case involves allegations that Byung took some 76 million won from former People Power Party or PPP lawmaker Kim Young-sun in exchange for a by-election nomination. If the new bill passes the plenary session Thursday, the special counsel will look into allegations that Yoon and First Lady Kim Gun-hee were involved in the nomination process of the 2022 local elections and by-elections, as well as parliamentary elections last year. South Korea to get greenhouse gas emission goal for 2035 with UN. South Korea will submit its greenhouse gas emission goal for 2035 to the United Nations this year to join global efforts to tackle climate change, the Presidential Commission on Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth said yesterday. The government said it also plans to devise a comprehensive plan for 2026 to 2030 to respond to global warming and a long-term plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The plans will include developing technologies, facilitating energy transition, fostering the climate tech industry, and expanding support for green finance. Government launches electronic arrival card system for incoming foreigners. Foreigners entering South Korea can now fill out their arrival card online up to 3 days in advance, the Justice Ministry said yesterday. The new electronic arrival form, dubbed e-arrival card, is expected to shorten screening time and relieve congestion at airports, thereby helping attract more tourists. The ministry plans to maintain the paper-based system until the end of the year in conjunction with the new electronic system to prevent confusion. Trump and Macron meet and discuss Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron held a joint conference after their meeting over the war in Ukraine, showing their differing views on the role of Europe. Trump said that the purpose of their meeting at the White House was to end the war, which he called horrible, as well as the deadliest and most destructive, but added that the cost and burden of securing peace must be paid for by the nations of Europe, not just the U.S. Macron said peace must not mean a surrender of Ukraine and insisted that Europe has not shied away from its responsibilities in helping Ukraine. And this was News Highlights. It's time for Wagelwaggel. Haley's back.
I'm back with the zero color. Yeah.
Oh,
well, Andrew, zero. Well, where
compared to Andrew?
Compared to Andrew, he's wearing all the color, all the pigments in the world.
I've never seen so many messages for Andrew. I mean, I know he's popular.
He's very popular. We love him.
Wow.
Yeah, we love him, but
yes,
in small doses.
Right. I want somebody who shall remain anonymous. It's not you nor I, but one of our listeners said, an eyesore, meaning too much, but not in a mean way.
Just the red, the explosion.
I
of
had
red.
to keep on looking away from him because it was just like
it's like he's like the sun. If you can't glare straight into it,
it was tough. All right, we're going to jump into our first story. This comedian has made waves with her satirical imitation of many people, but of a particular group.
Right. So this is comedian Lee Soo-ji. On her YouTuber, there's like a mockumentary video that she put up. She does impressions of particular groups. The latest is 대치맘, which is moms from kind of the wealthier areas in Seoul, very education focused. You might call them helicopter moms. So let's take a listen to the clip.
제이미, 장난감 던지지 않아요. Don't do that. Stand up. 저 제게차기 과외 선생님 오신다 그래서 기다리고 있어요. 이번에 그 오징어 게임 툴도 나왔지만 굉장히 유니크하면서도 유행이 될 것 같아서 나중에 이제 수행평가나 이런 것들로 또 제시될 수 있을 것 같아서 미리 좀 선행학습하려고.
진짜 대단하신 분이라고 소개를 또 해주셔가지고 한 번 아이를 가르쳐주면 너무 감사하겠다. 소피아는 그러면 그 연날리기 수업을 했던 건가요?
그쵸, 연날리기 그때 3일 수업해가지고 연을 날리기 시작했죠.
강북에서 강남까지 건너갔다고 들었어요.
지금쯤 아마 사이판까지 갔을 거예요. 그 연은 떨어지지 않아요.
This is, by the way, from her official YouTube channel. This is genius black comedy. So she is playing Jamie's mom.
She's spot on.
She's spot on.
She is.
Yes.
Spot on means
it's like
good
hit the
acting,
mark,
very
10
good.
out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah. So she, as you can see, interchanges between Korean and English, gets very teary-eyed. And I didn't put that part in because there are references to like pooping, but child's potty training, that she was going to consult a potty training specialist, but her child, used the bathroom and wears this very expensive, very well-known brand's padded jacket. This particular brand, it apparently saw an increase in the number of people perhaps unloading this jacket on secondhand platforms because they felt that they didn't want to be connected to the satire anymore.
Really?
That this might be changing kind of the public perception, the image of the brand. So comments on this video, they say this is hyperrealism. They got chills. But those who live in that particular area, 대치동, or who work around it, say that they felt uncomfortable. That this was kind of a targeted blanket attack on a group, saying that kind of they hope for why the video would cover at least why these parents have to be so obsessed with education.
Why?
Because, well, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But this is what's called like 거울치료, like mirror treatment, seeing your behavior reflected on someone else. That's been a popular form of humor on mostly YouTube, but other means of social media.
Yes.
Making fun of particular jobs, particular celebrities. So let's talk about this satire in general. This is a form of humor that goes on centuries. I mean, court
She's a comedian.
gestures,
Yes.
even in the medieval times, were satirical. We have, we have 광대 clowns who are satirical. So pop culture critics say that this comedian's video, this particular video, would be a form of legitimate satire over social issues. Education is like the biggest social issue in South Korea. However, for others, it is horrible to make fun of just a particular group of people just for how they look, which is unfortunately, once again, not here, but in other satirical videos it's been a problem. So, by the way, where's the line is the question. The line is whom you're making fun of. If you're making fun of people, if you're satirizing people who have wealth, social power, social political power, who are basically on kind of the social hierarchy, socioeconomic hierarchy, in the upper echelons of society, that would be satire. That's how satire came
Even in
to be.
조선시대, wasn't there
Even in
satire?
조선시대, that's
Making
where,
fun of the young ones, right?
Right. 왕의 남자, that whole thing, even medieval times. And then if we are mocking fun of people who would be considered to be in the minority, vulnerable, that is just, that goes to mockery and, even to bullying.
But even as you play the clip, like some of our listeners were chiming in saying, 교양은 있어 보이는데 차분해서.
Yeah, she seems very sophisticated.
Like very her tone and her mannerisms.
Right.
Kind of like, But let's actually look at this comment about why certain parents feel the need to obsess over their children's education. Because, I even see bits of it here. I see like comments like saying, which high school did you go to? Because I want to send my son there. I mean, there is generally speaking, as a country, everybody wants their kids to be like well educated.
Right. So as a child, I lived in Seoul.
Yes.
And it was in like one of the education heavy areas. Thankfully, I was too young, so I was spared from all of that. But I definitely remember my sister, who was in middle school at the time, coming home at 1 a.m. This is before the laws. 1 a.m. from private academies. And and we joke about this. She was not a top student. She was just very like average mid-range student, but the kind of the convention was that they're going to go and it doesn't matter. You have to send them anyway. So this is one anecdotal look, but let's look at some others.
Yes.
Certain elite private classes, they require exams for children. So I gave you an example of my middle school age sister. We're going into 4-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and this is kind of called 4세 고시.
Yes.
7세 고시, and 고시 is like a very difficult exam. So from some of these 대치동 English academies, for examples, they use 3rd or 4th grade American textbooks for 7-year-old classes. Yes. So, and there are private academies that prep your kids for the upper private academies because they are tests. You have to pass an entrance exam to get in. Math classes for elementary school kids are way beyond middle and high school level. So I know some 5th and 6th graders who have like completed the high school curriculum and they're like on to round 2. So Statistics Korea says that as of 2023, 86% of elementary school children are in some form of private education lessons. Expand that or focus that onto Seoul, that's 91%. So it's almost everyone. However, the statistic is not available for pre-kindergarten age children. 미취학 아동. We don't have numbers for that.
Right.
So the Education Ministry conducted its first official survey over pre-K kids last year. The data isn't available yet. However, we do need to know these numbers for policymakers to start coming up with measures.
Yes.
So yeah.
People commenting. Some people saying 학원 가려고 학원 다니는 세상이 올바른 방향은 아닌 것 같아요. So basically, going to a private academy to get into a better private academy, is that like a world we really want to live in? Is that the correct path to take? I don't know.
It's a vicious cycle. It's a never-ending cycle.
But even like with my youngest, she's, she has told me like many of her students, classmates, they literally like sleep throughout all the so-called unimportant like subjects
classes,
that are not on the student. And then the teachers get frustrated. And then they say, well, they're sleeping because they have to rest for 학원 later.
Because they stayed up so late doing 학원 classes and 학원 homework.
So they sleep through
and
those
then this
classes.
is a vicious cycle of teachers' authority, and that's why we had the whole set of issues.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
We could just do like 10 hours on that, but we got to move on. Next, firefighters are facing a lawsuit for breaking down a door to look for people in a fire? It's
Which
a question mark because I'm like,
literally
why?
their job,
yes,
is it not?
To
right.
save people.
So we're going to go to Gwangju for this story. There was a fire at what we call a villa, a multi-household building, a smaller apartment, and early in the morning. This was like before 3 o'clock in the morning. Smoke filled up the building, so the firefighters had to knock on the doors of every unit to make sure people are awake and evacuating. They got 5 people out, but apparently 6 of the units they had no answers from. So the firefighters had to force the door open. They had to break down the door or just yank it open. The homes were thankfully empty. However, one person in the unit, the homeowner, the resident of the unit where the fire began from, died. The residents of the building have now requested that the fire authorities, the fire department, pay for the damaged doors and locks.
So why are the firefighters getting the bill for this?
So this is complicated insurance work, but it's something important to know because usually in these cases, if there was a fire, and even if the fire didn't burn through the unit, but if there were damages from such cases, the homeowner of the unit from where the fire started would use his or her insurance to pay for the damages for the entire building. That's why we have, renter's insurance or fire insurance. However, because that homeowner died, the insurance wouldn't cover it. Also, the other unit's owners or the tenants didn't have fire insurance either.
I see.
So private insurance is not an option at this point. And in cases of property damage from fire or rescue activities, they can be compensated through administrative compensations or AKA public insurance.
Right.
But that is only in the case of if the firefighters made mistakes or took illegal action. This was not the case. The insurance company said that is actually a justified form of rescue work, so we cannot cover for that through the liability clause because there is no liability.
Yes.
And then the ball got bounced to the Gwangju Fire Agency. They do have reserve funds or emergency funds, 10 million won 1,000만 won, but they said that it's hard to justify spending 80% of that, 8 million won, for just one case because the fund would be depleted. That it's only February.
Yes.
So it was a whole thing, but thankfully last night Gwangju's mayor stepped in. Mayor Kang Gi-jung said the firefighters, number one, should not be liable for compensations for doing their work, but also the residents, understandably, they had their door broke open and they're currently living without a functioning lock, so they should be compensated as well. The mayoral administration will take care of it using the city's insurance and budget.
I see. All right, so, I mean...
Thankfully, it ended on a good note,
but still.
But for a while, it was definitely eyebrow raising of, well, will the firefighters, if they have to pay for it,
then I don't know.
Will they want to
break down
do
doors
their
to
job?
save people?
Yes. I want them to break down my door and save me, and yeah.
All right. Moving on. In Suriname, jaguars are being illegally hunted and exported.
Right. So we're talking about poaching, which is 밀렵, so that's illegal hunting. In January, 3 Chinese men were arrested in possession of jaguar teeth. They're 송곳니. And that, of course, is illegal in Suriname because jaguars are protected species.
Yes.
And now that was kind of the tip of the iceberg. Reports by a nonprofit World Animal Protection, they've highlighted a much larger, well-organized network of international jaguar trafficking.
Okay.
So here, large cats are apparently being killed to order. So you can order to have them be hunted, and those are their teeth. And for their teeth to be used as jewelry. Their body parts as medicinal ingredients to be smuggled out in luggage. And by the way, signs point to China. And we'll get to that. But the top product is, also this is disturbing if you're an animal lover, maybe turn the volume down for a bit, is jaguar paste. Or jaguar glue. It's like the sticky substance.
Oh, no.
It's made by boiling the cat down for several days because it's rumored, this is so not substantiated, with treating various ailments from insomnia to sexual dysfunction.
You know, do people realize they have Western medicine?
There are doctors, or even Eastern medicine.
That can treat you.
Right.
For insomnia. And sexual dysfunction. But anyhow, well, let's go back to what you said about China. How does China play a role in this jaguar
This
smuggling?
is kind of interestingly, it goes back to the economy because China has been having a heavy investment over South America, including Suriname with huge logging and mining in the jungle.
Yes.
So that has opened up previously closed off paths. So they're literally bulldozing their way into the jungle. And because also Chinese expats and business people are traveling in and out of that area very freely, that opens up a new smuggling industry for this particular good, I suppose.
Yes.
And that includes jaguar products. So animal rights activists also say that there are, to be fair, other nations that will buy the teeth and fangs for jewelry and even locals displaying the hide or the skin. But that it is the Chinese that are dealing in the highest amounts. And apparently they're called American tigers in China. By the way, here's another problematic layer on top of this disturbing story. This trade is linked to drug smuggling and illegal immigration brokers.
Okay.
So the U.S. Homeland Security says that in terms of international, transnational criminal activities, poaching and smuggling, this 밀렵 of wild animals, 4th largest profitable activity worldwide.
Really?
Top is drugs, second is human trafficking, third is dupes and counterfeits, and 4th place is animals.
Okay, well now we know why they do it, but terrible.
Yeah.
Well, we need to end it on a heartwarming note. Tell me there's a good story.
Yes, so we're going to go to Busan, coming back to Korea. Busan City shared a story that happened to one of its homeowners as a part of its social works program last year. So this very small mom and pop supermarket owner, he found an envelope on the counter from a young man in his 20s.
Yes.
The envelope contained a note with 200,000 won, 20만 won in cash. So what happened? Let's rewind back. This guy usually comes in, buys just like a can of coffee, but one day asked the owner, can you spot me one ramen? Like one. Singular, one package of ramen. 외상으로.
One ramen.
Can I buy one on credit? Because he recently lost his job and can't make ends meet and he was so hungry. So the owner actually, instead of one ramen, just basically grabbed a bag and started filling it with food and gave him 50,000 won worth of food. Later on, the man got a job, it seems, and came back with this cash and expressed his appreciation. And that note kind of broke my heart. This isn't much, but I hope you too, presumably his wife, can go out to a nice meal. I am alive because of you. 덕분에 살아있습니다.
Oh my gosh, I got chills.
Right. And by the way, this isn't just one-off. I mean, it's an incredible act, but it's just not a singularity because the owner is a part of the city's larger social and local businesses kind of safety network program.
Okay.
So because local businesses, especially mom and pop stores, may have more face-to-face contact with people who might be in vulnerable conditions.
Yes.
They can do things like this, give people food who are in need, and then the local government will actually compensate them. They will foot the bill. Right. So they'll kind of cover the actions. And they can also connect these people who are in need to social workers. So it's a very important community that's been formed.
Yes, and you know, I have a feeling that the owner, I mean,
he gave the money back to the guy, but it's a relationship, and that's definitely an important social network.
Without the system or not.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, thank you for all the stories, especially the last one, to leave us on a good note. And of course, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right. Now it's time for your updated traffic report. There is a lot going out on the roads this morning. There's an accident on Jungwon Expressway toward Busan, right at the end of Daejeon Interchange. There's stop-and-go traffic on Byeongno going out of the city right around Wondong due to an accident earlier. There's also congestion on Mandakdero from Namsanjeong Station to Deokcheon Interchange. Also, traffic buildup on Pansonglo from Kumsa to Allak intersection in both directions right now. It's also looking slow on Jungangdero from Songgong three-way intersection to Bomnaekwol intersection. Currently, it is 0 right now. It's going to go up to 9 degrees. So yes, definitely warmer than yesterday. There is a dry weather special alert here in Busan. Across the nation, we are definitely getting a break in the cold wave as a country, with the daytime highs across the country going up to 6 or even 11 degrees, depending on where you are. Most areas are under a dry weather special alert, so that means we need to be extra cautious of creating or making fires. This was your traffic and weather. And here's our song request from Michael. This is Love Blossom by K-Will.
입안에서 바람 맛이 달콤한 아침 새하얀 이불 위로 닿는 햇살이 좋아 설레는 전화벨 소리 그대인가요 설탕 한 스푼 담긴 소리 Hello Hello 이 거리 위에 나의 가슴 속에 왜 이리나 들뜨나 몰라 팝콘 같은 꽃잎이 저 높이 날아요 사랑한단 말하면 난 정말 녹아요 오늘 같은 바람이 불면 하루 종일 미치겠어 그대가 아른아른거려서 향기로운 봄바람이 나풀거리고 두 볼에 앉은 햇살마저 완벽한걸요 새하얗게 춤을 추는 꽃잎을 보며 그대와 둘이 걷다 보면 아하 이 거리 위에 우리들 사이에 설레임이 피어올라요 팝콘 같은 꽃잎이 저 높이 날아요 사랑한단 말하면 난 정말 녹아요 오늘 같은 바람이 불면 하루 종일 녹아요 살랑대는 바람에 사랑이 불어 오늘 같은 바람이 불면 제일 먼저 떠올라요 그대만 팝콘 같은 꽃잎이 저 높이 날아요 사랑한단 말하면 난 정말 녹아요 오늘 같은 바람이 불면 하루 종일 미치겠어 그대가 아른아른거려서 그대가 나의 봄이죠
Welcome back, everybody. So I'm going to read maybe one or two more messages regarding our text topic. Like, where did you used to hang out? What did you used to do when you were younger? So Young, he says this. In my teenage years, I used to go bowling in the mall. Oh, in the mall. My favorite place, right? Every weekend with friends and some older guys from church, we had this rule where the last place finisher, 꼴찌, would pay the most. 돈을 제일 많이 내고 볼링 가서요. The second to last paid a little less, and the winner didn't have to pay anything. So there was a little bit of a wager going on, a bet on who could score the most in bowling. I remember always sticking around the best player, hoping they'd go easy on me so I wouldn't have to pay. Now that I think about it, I really miss those days. Oh, what a fond memory, and thank you for sharing that with us as well, because, there are so many things that, we can look back on, whether, it's in a bowling alley or, whether it was in a comic book store or, one of those manabangs or etc. Whatever you were doing, we can look back on and think, hey, those were the good old days. As you've grown into an adult, there are so many things on your plate, so many things you need to complete, so many tasks to accomplish for the day. We kind of forget, just like kind of hanging out with our friends. Yes, definitely a good thing. Well, we're going to get to our special interview. I'll be back in just a moment. Listeners, if you remember in the year 2024, when the budget was announced the year prior, we were kind of surprised that South Korea's research and development R&D budget saw some major cuts. However, the government did reverse course. For 2025, there has been a bump in funding. In contrast, the U.S. is facing proposed cuts to key research agencies, including the National Institutes of Health, raising concerns about the country's scientific leadership. So scientists, they worry that, reduced investment could slow innovation, weaken global competitiveness, and also impact economic growth. So this does really cover so many different areas. And as South Korea ramps up funding, the U.S. risks falling behind. So what does this mean for researchers, industries, and future breakthroughs? Let's find out. We have invited Professor Chris Impey, who is the University Distinguished Professor in the Department of Astronomy at the University of Arizona. Thanks for joining us today, Professor.
Hey, good to be with you.
Yes. So first of all, let's go over the basics. Why is government funding so important for scientific research? I mean, obviously in the U.S., but just generally speaking, why is it important?
Well, to take the long view, since the Second World War, 85% of American economic growth was driven by science and technology. And there's data that actually shows that fundamental or basic research generates more economic growth than applied research. So only the federal government really funds that kind of research. Businesses and corporations will fund applied research, but it has very particular applications.
Yes. And so in terms of the funding cuts, they affect not just scientists, from what I understand, Professor, but, there's more of an effect also on the economy and everyday people. People might not think that there's a direct effect, but isn't there at least indirect effects?
No, it's very direct. So all of the main agencies, National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, NASA, they have research funded essentially in all 50 states. And I think members of Congress are starting to realize this, that these cuts are affecting red and blue states equally. And it's a lot of jobs. It's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are supported by that research enterprise across the country.
And so some of our listeners in Korea might be wondering why. Is there particular reasoning as to why the funding has been cut?
I don't even think it's always targeted at science. As we've seen in the first month of this new administration, there's sort of indiscriminate cuts across all federal agencies, including the science agencies. Now, all the science agencies are less than 1% of federal spending. So you're really not even going to solve the budget deficit problem by cutting science. So it seems that science is suffering as part of a broad, sweeping evisceration of the federal workforce.
Yes. And so, we have known the U.S. Being such a leader in science for, I don't even know how long, decades. Could these budget cuts affect that or change that or in any way?
Absolutely. And it'll happen quickly because people will start, young people especially, will start to go into other fields. They will also start to leave the U.S. The U.S. depends on a lot of immigrant talent, people born here or people who moved here, and they will go elsewhere to do their research. And other countries are supporting their science more strongly now than the United States. So this loss of talent could happen quite quickly.
Yes. And in terms of the science funding in the U.S. right now compared to other countries, I'm sure, like in the sheer numbers, it might be so high. But if we looked at the ratio or the percentage compared to countries like China or even the EU, can we do a little comparison?
Sure. In total numbers, then United States is still number one.
Yes.
On R&D, and China is close behind, but actually catching up. And between them, the U.S. and China amount to more than 3/4 of world funding for R&D. But as a fraction of GDP, it's a different story. So at the top sits Israel, South Korea sits second, and the United States is now not even in the top 10 as funding as a percentage of GDP. And its fact has been slipping. So federal funding for research was over 2% of GDP. In the 1970s, it's now 0.7%. So it's dropped by a factor of 3.
Wow. So it's been gradually declining over the decades. Is that true?
That's right. So federal funding, the agency's funding has been stagnant or declining. And federal funding of research is already at a 25-year low, even before the cuts that are being proposed were put on the table.
I see. Thus far, has there been any pushback from the big agencies like you talk about, the NIH or NASA or any of the other agencies against these budget cuts?
Not really. And to be honest, my community of scientists are disappointed that the federal agencies have sort of been complying in advance, but they've been asked to earmark grants that might have diversity or equity components, and they're sort of reacting ahead of time, and that's very disappointing. So there's not really been any resistance, if you like, from the federal agencies. They're sort of just complying.
Well, you say, what about the federal agencies, just scientists, as you say, including you, Professor? Has there been discussions, have there been conversations where the science community showing that they're unhappy about these cuts, further cuts?
Yes, we've been trying to make the case, and I've written articles about this, that, making the big case for federal funding, why it improves economic growth. And so, you're really sacrificing a valuable thing that was built up over decades. The other thing, of course, that's starting to happen is Congress is starting to realize that these cuts are affecting all of their districts, red and blue equally. And I think there will be some pushback coming because we haven't seen the president's budget, which does indicate there will be very deep cuts to the National Science Foundation, for example, and NIH. But once the president's budget is delivered to Congress, then the messy part of the budget process starts. And I suspect there will be pushback within Congress because they'll realize that they're going to be hearing from their constituents about job losses and about services that will be lost. And so I don't think the story is over yet.
Right. And Professor, if you could give us some like real world examples of how past funding really does cut or slow down science and scientific progress, because, I want to give our listeners a better real feel of how this could affect everyday people.
Well, we saw an effect of budget cuts a decade or so ago. Congress occasionally starts to do across-the-board cuts in an indiscriminate way. And in 2010 to 2013, they did this. It's called sequestration. And that was the largest loss in federal funding of science in a 3-year period since the end of the space race. And people did see the impact of that, and there was pushback. And so they reversed course, and they restored some of the cuts. During the pandemic, they added more money to science. So these effects are seen quite quickly.
Yes.
And voters are starting to make their voices heard. So just science is a small community of people, and the self-interest is involved. So it's better when congressional people hear from their constituents.
And for our final kind of wrap-up question for you today, Professor, what do you think the future holds? I mean, do you think that the U.S. can maintain its top position in science? Because it does sound quite challenging right now. There have been, as you pointed out, gradually dwindling, funds or, budget cuts, and then it seems like further budget cuts right now. But you mentioned earlier that the U.S. is still number one. China nipping at its heels. Do you think that the U.S. can maintain this position?
I think already there's been slippage. So and it doesn't take long. So if you take some cutting edge fields like artificial intelligence or quantum computing, these are typically funded by federal agencies to do the exploratory research. And other countries like China are heavily investing in these areas. The Europeans are not maybe as threatening competitors, if you like, because their economies have had some problems in the last years too. So it's more the emerging countries in Asia that are really doing a lot of research, and they've recognized what the United States benefited from for all those decades, that this investment really gave big returns.
Well, of course, we will be keeping an eye on what happens as this affects not just the U.S., but of course, the world at large as well. Thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing your opinions with us. Thank you, Professor.
Glad to be with you.
This was Professor Chris MP, and we talked about how these R&D cuts really could impact all the global competitiveness, including not just the U.S., but just the world at large, like I said. This was your special interview.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It's time for Bonnie.
Hello, good morning.
Bonnie's here for the health.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm surprised because she just shared a little secret, but I'm going to let her tell you guys everything. Before we get into our topic, when you were younger, when you were a teenager, where did you hang out with your friends? For me, it was kind of the mall. But where did you hang out?
We spent a lot of days and nights at Jack in the Box.
Oh.
Because they were one of the, a place called Denny's. Because they were the only places open late at night. And
that's true.
I lived in a very boring town. So our fun things were having bonfires at the beach.
Where did you live?
Monterey, California.
Monterey, that's so beautiful. What are you talking about?
It's very beautiful, but very boring as a child.
One of my favorite places, for an overnight getaway, was the inn at along the way.
Beautiful. I mean,
beautiful
I really
B&Bs.
appreciate it now. It was beautiful, but as a young kid, it was so boring. So the only thing to do was have bonfires. bars, like literally gatherings, and then going to a fast food joint because those were the only things open late at night.
Yes.
So that was our fun.
Well, thank you for sharing. Well, let's get into our topic. I'm excited because you brought
I'm excited as
something.
well.
I see.
Okay, so I want to start off. I'm going to be sharing something that some of you might have heard of. It's called the Master Cleanse.
I want to try it.
And it is otherwise known as the lemonade diet.
Yeah.
Made popular by Beyonce
herself
and other celebrities have used this as kind of like a weight loss.
That's why supposedly she did it right.
Gimmick,
right?
yeah. So that's how a lot of people know it. But actually, this was started in the 1940s.
1940s?
By a naturopath man, Stanley Burroughs, and he wrote a book called The Master Cleanser. So he made this as a detox to treat ulcers, a natural way for the body to kind of flush out all the toxins, pesticides, all the impurities. And then it got popular in the 2000s. Somebody else wrote another book, and then celebrities started using it. So it started becoming this kind of pop culture, easy, quick fix to lose weight.
Sure.
So I want to start off by saying I do not condone this. I do not think that it is a really healthy way to lose weight.
Okay.
Because you do kind of get the weight back. It's a lot of water weight that you lose.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a safe or sustainable way to lose a lot of weight. But I will say I do think it's a healthier option than what people are kind of using nowadays, like those shots, like medical shots. That
like
are,
WeGo thing and
I don't know all the names, but I do know that those are very, very popular and people are able to get them quite simply.
Shots,
yes. Very easily attainable right now. So I think people are using those as kind of like a quick fix way to lose a lot of weight really fast. So I think this is more of a natural way that you can do this. It might be more difficult for many, but I do feel like this is a healthier way. So I just want to say, I'm not saying that this is everybody, if you want to lose weight, go do this diet. I'm not promoting it. I'm just bringing it to you, going to give you information. You do the research on your own.
Okay. So what is it exactly?
So what it is you are basically fasting from solid foods for about 3 to 10 days. And all you are having during these 3 to 10 days is this lemonade drink, water, and then you're allowed to have some herbal teas. And then you do a nightly flush every night that consists either of a salt water concoction or a detox laxative tea that you can have. So I've brought my sample. This is what I've been drinking. So everybody, I've been on this for
how many days now?
Now this is day 6. So
and
for 5 days, I haven't had anything but this lemonade diet, lemonade drink. And to let you know, I've done this 5 times before. This is my 5th time doing it. So I'm like seasoned. I know what to expect. I know how my body reacts. I know that I like doing it for myself.
Your skin is glowing.
But I've done, thank you. But I have done this many times before. So it's kind of easy for me. Everybody's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Oh, you're my hero. And I'm like, no, I've done this before. So I know how my body's going to react. So in the actual like recipe of it, there is an ease in and an ease out period.
Okay.
So the ease in is basically 3 days before you just have organic fruits and vegetables, things that you're like whole foods, whole grains.
So no processed food.
Yeah, no processed foods.
Yes.
Then 2 days before you have some very light like soup broths, things that are easily digestible to get your system ready. And then like some juices. And then the very last day before you start the cleanse is an orange juice
Is
day.
there a reason why it has to be orange juice?
It is said that orange juice is easy to digest. It's full of vitamin C. It has natural sugars, which are going to lead to that energy. So it's not going to make you all weak. And it's hydrating. The acidity helps with the digestive enzymes. And it keeps the body like not going into shock, basically, from not eating heavier foods. I personally do not do this. I might do a little bit of easing in without like processed foods, but I don't do the whole orange juice thing, and because I've done this before so many times, I kind of know that my body can handle it.
Yes.
But the ease in and ease out period is also after you finish it, you're supposed to like ease your body into it.
I
So
see.
this I do feel is important. After you finish any kind of cleanse or any kind of fasting, you don't want to reintroduce harsh, heavy foods into your system, like fried foods, heavy in oil, lots of like cream or milk, dairy. They definitely say avoid meat and dairy right after the cleanse.
Okay.
It's just harsh on your digestive system, and so it's going to be not maybe pleasant for you. And then during the actual like cleanse in itself, the actual lemonade recipe is just organic lemon juice, organic grade B maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and water. So that is it. That's all that's
Pretty
in this
simple.
cup. Yes, very, very
Okay,
simple.
okay.
But you want to use organic ingredients, of course, because that's the only thing going into your body. You want to make sure that it's clear of pesticides, clear of chemicals. Anything organic is what you want. So this recipe is this recipe because it sustains you throughout the day. It gives you enough metabolism. It provides like enough energy to go throughout the day. So like I said, I've been on this diet or not diet, I want to say cleanse for 5 days. And I've done everything that I normally do. I've been going to work. I've been going to my yoga classes. I just haven't been doing any intense cardio or intense weightlifting. That's, but you know, everybody kind of does whatever they feel like. Some people feel quite weak when they start this, so maybe you want to sustain from like very, very intense workouts,
Yes.
but I feel okay to kind of go out throughout my day. These ingredients are for a reason as well. So lemon juice provides vitamin C, antioxidant, citric acid, and these help to detoxify the body and support your digestion. They also act as natural diuretic, so helping you to flush out those toxins. The maple syrup supplies essential minerals like calcium, potassium, magnesium, and natural sugars, and that's going to provide you with the energy. So some people, if you are doing this as a weight loss thing, a lot of people lower the dosage of maple syrup, so it's less sugars, but that maple syrup is going to give you that energy throughout the day.
The maple syrup.
So you can do the things that you want to do or normally do. And it helps to prevent a blood sugar crash, which can make you feel super weak. The cayenne pepper is in there to boost your metabolism, improve your circulation, and helps up to break that mucus up and the toxins in the digestive system, and has anti-inflammatory properties. So there's a reason why you do those three properties, or those three ingredients. Okay, now the last part of the cleanse is at nighttime you do a flush. And if you are someone who gets squeamish over potty talk, I would turn the volume down at this moment.
Okay, turn off. We're going to talk about number one.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Technically number two.
Oh, two. Oh, okay. Number two.
But this is kind of the whole point of the cleanse. So the lemonade concoction is to give you energy, sustain you from not losing energy throughout the day from not eating solid foods. But the flush is the cleanse part.
Okay.
Because you have not been eating anything, you do the cleanse to kind of flush out your colon.
Got it.
So you take this salt water concoction or the laxative tea, and basically your body goes into shock like, oh, this is too much salt. Your body knows that it's an overload of salt. So it tries to get that salt water out of your body as quickly as possible. That's why you need to go to the bathroom pretty immediate. I would say between 30 minutes to an hour, your body wants to get the salt water out. So you need to go to the bathroom.
So you wouldn't want to do this during the middle of the day?
Definitely not.
Like at work?
If you need to go to work, I would not do that. Actually, there are many websites that have this recipe, but one of the warnings was do not wear white pants during this cleanse. And this is very true because you do need to go. You need to be in a place where you're close to a toilet after you do
it at home,
this
people.
after you drink this saltwater concoction, because your body wants to eliminate it as fast as you can. And think, if there's no food in your colon, basically what you're flushing out is all the stuff that is stuck to the side of your colon. And if you haven't eaten in days, the things that come out might surprise you.
Really?
So this is why I continue to do this cleanse. And the first time I did it, this is why I was so shocked and, was like, oh, because this was first time maybe 10 plus years ago. And I was not eating very healthy at the time. I was younger. I was drinking a lot. I was having a lot of fast food, oily food. The things that came out of my body after I was not eating for 3 to 4 days was quite disgusting. And I wanted to get it out. That was motivating to me to see what was coming out of my body after not eating. It was like all the remnants that was just stuck in there. So I was so motivated to get all of that out. I actually went 10 days the first time doing this because I just
10 days?
Yeah, I kept, and I felt okay doing it. So I just kind of kept going one day after another. 7 days was the goal, but I went a couple days over because
So Umberto sums it up very well. He just sends in there's like 20 W's.
Yeah, I told you if you get squeamish. But this is the whole point of the whole cleanse is this flush part of it. It might be quite motivating for you too. You never know. But the pros of this cleanse is that it removes the toxins from your body. And for me, I think it's a much healthier way to do a kind of colon cleanse. Or, if you want to go the weight loss journey, then getting those medical shots. These are from healthline.com. It gives your digestion system a rest, which has many benefits, like repairing your gut, your microbiome, boost your immune system, your metabolism. And I'll go into more of this because this kind of fits in with fasting benefits as well. And I'll cover this again in a later episode.
Sure.
But those are pros, the benefits of this. Now, there are cons.
Right, the downsides.
Because you have a low caloric intake. It is good for diet because you're not having a lot of calories, but also it's definitely below the recommended 2,000 calories a day that you should be having.
Okay.
So it is deficient in vital nutrients like your proteins, your carbohydrates, essential fats, fiber, vitamins, minerals. If you are someone who's concerned about your muscle mass, you will lose a little bit of muscle because you're not having any protein in your diet or carbohydrates. So there's no scientific research that says it will clear out toxins in the body because your body's designed to do it on its own. You have your kidneys, your liver, your lungs. Your body is designed to clear out toxins by itself.
Yes.
So some people experience headaches, dizziness, diarrhea, nausea, and this diet is not for everyone.
Yes.
Like I said, I have known people to go on this diet and quit because they feel too weak, they feel nauseous, it doesn't fit with them.
Right.
For me personally, I love it. I feel good. I feel energized. After I finish the cold cleanse, I feel kind of lighter. And for me, the biggest point is I feel motivated to eat clean because I've just cleansed everything out of my colon.
And you saw what came out.
Yeah. And I don't want to put bad things back in because everything you put back in your body now is even more better absorbed by your body because your colon is fully cleansed.
Yes.
So you want to put nutrient-dense food back into your body afterwards. So I personally love it.
Right.
And it's like a mental challenge. Can you do this? You feel kind of like a superwoman afterwards because you went through this whole thing.
Right. And of course, we're not doctors, so you might want to consult with your doctor.
Definitely.
So thank you for going over this. And Leslie saying, when you're going over the EU part, anyone who has had a colonoscopy knows this or had norovirus. Colonoscopy in Korean is 대장내시경. So it's kind of like that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens
It's like
after.
your own personal one at home.
Yeah. Well, thank you for going over the ins and outs of this master cleanse.
Yes.
So I have to get a public service announcement out, so I'm going to let you go. Oh, is that, do we get a little taste?
Yeah, I was going to have you taste a little.
Okay, but right after, I got to do this first, so it's very important. So here we go, listeners. The Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the National Fire Agency has issued this public service announcement at 8:10 a.m. February 25th, 2025 nationwide. These are the guidelines for action for people on prevention and response in the event of a fire in multi-use facilities. First, the facility manager should ordinarily and frequently inspect firefighting facilities to make sure that they're functioning properly. In the event of a fire, a prompt report of the fire and make an announcement. First, evacuate those for whom prompt evacuation is difficult, such as children, the elderly, and others. And then check if there is anyone who has not evacuated. When you evacuate, close the doors and do not use the elevator. For people inside buildings or facilities, quickly evacuate outside the building, cover your nose and mouth with a wet towel or others, and keep your posture low under the smoke and quickly move toward the exit. If you couldn't evacuate, request rescue from a location visible from the outside, such as a window, and take measures to prevent smoke from entering the interior. This was brought to you by the Ministry of the Interior and Safety and the National Fire Agency. So once again, that's what we have to be careful. Extra dry today. We're going to end it on this note. So this is 날개 잃은 천사 by Rula. Have a good one, everybody. Be safe. Bye-bye.
내가 싫고 남기도 잡고 자도 갈지 이제 알아
혼자 된 기분은 그건 착각이었어
느낄 수 있니
사랑의 시작은 외로움의 끝인 걸 언제라도 난 내가 원한 것은 따줄 듯 보였고 끈덕스러운 내 기분 맞추려 고민도 하고
나 이제 알아
혼자 된 기분은 그건 착각이었어
느낄 수 있니
사랑의 시작은 외로움의 끝인 걸
새로운 다운